Are you a small business or a marketing team trying to just manage your content, whether it's blogs, videos, or newsletters? This can be very difficult. Now, at Bijli, we've developed a simple and easy content management solution that you can build right into ClickUp. You'll be able to manage different stages, your content calendar, and create other views to help manage your tasks and your team. So let's jump right in. I'm in my Bijli workspace. And so I'm going to go to, and just let's just create a space first. So let's create a marketing space as an example. I'm assuming you have a content management space or a content list living in marketing, but we're just going to create a marketing space for now. Okay. So go ahead, create a marketing. We'll just do starter for now, which is fine. Now, one thing to note, this solution is very simple, very straightforward. All right, we're going to consolidate a lot of the views so that your team has easy visibility on each task. With that being said, we're going to create our content management list. Let's go ahead and rename this list and let's just call it content. All right. Now, next is every task represents a piece of content. So I'm just going to go ahead and add in content name for now. As we build this list out, we'll kind of demo the process to you as well. So right now I just have a standard list view, a board view, and then I have a task here. Our task will be the piece of content, and we're going to have the standard fields. Let's kind of drive these in. Let's have assignee. I like to have due date, obviously. So let's just kind of reduce the margins or these widths a little bit so that we have the ability to add more custom fields. Now, assignee is obviously the person who's responsible for the content or that point of content. The due date is obviously when you want to complete it or track our stage, as I'll show you in the future. And then priority is obviously how important this task is there. All right, so pretty simple stuff so far. Let's kind of go into customizing the statuses. And these statuses may not make sense initially, but as we build out the stages, I'll be able to explain to you why these statuses are being used here. So I'm going to go ahead into the status area to customize it. And we'll just stick to here. So we're going to name it, we'll have to do as our non-starter. We'll have ready to start. And then we'll have in progress. I think that's good. On hold. Let's do ready for review. And then let's add some done statuses. Let's literally use done, rejected. And I like to have good color coding here. And then we'll use our close status as complete. Now, these statuses will help drive the completion of our task here. All right. So I'm going to go ahead. If you created a template, go ahead and click on Save as Template. Now I'm going to go ahead and hit Apply Changes. All right. So far, we created a simple content list that's giving your team a home base, everything content related, essentially. And we're going to start building it out so that we can track everything from the initial idea to the final publishing so that nothing slips through the cracks. All right. So let's get into this and let's start creating those custom fields. All right. So the first custom field that we are going to add in is content stage. So let's go ahead and create it. Content stage. I'm going to go ahead and create a new one. Now, in our content stage, I'm going to have the different layers of work for any piece of content generally. So let's just do new content idea, or let's just do new idea instead of new content idea. Next, we'll do planning, drafting, content created. All right. So these stages are helping us understand where we are at in the content phase, right? Or stage, obviously. Let's do scheduled. And then finally, we're going to do published. Now, what's nice in ClickUp is we can set a default stage. So what I'm going to do is new content idea will be our default. So let's go to more settings and our default value will be new idea in this case. Please adjust the colors later on here. And so let's go ahead and hit create. So we have our first field here, content stage. All right. Now I want to add in status as a field as well. and I'll explain why this is important. Essentially, the status is driving our stage. So, for example, the new idea or the new content is in this new idea stage. We are currently in to do, maybe it's in our backlog, it's not ready to start yet. Or if somebody's working on this idea, they're kind of putting together the acceptance or criteria or just kind of generally working it, you can start adjusting the status for that particular content stage. In other examples, let's say that we are now in drafting. We can say the drafting is in progress. The drafting is ready to start. The drafting is on hold, ready for review. Maybe if it's in review, the person who is responsible to review or approve it can go ahead and reject or mark it as done as well. We're going to add in some really cool automations so that when we do mark the stage as done, it'll go ahead and automatically adjust the stage to the next one in line. All right. Now, the other field I'm going to add in is a date field. It's going to be called publish date. So let's go ahead and add that in. Just go ahead and type in publish date. I already have one. All you have to do is just make sure it's a date field. And our date field differs from the due date. So we're going to use due date to track the actual completion for each stage. This will help us really hone in when each stage should be completed. All right. And then what we're going to do is the publish date is the actual release date. So your completion date or your due date may be different from your actual publish date. So having these two distinct date fields will really help keep your tasks organized and your work organized as well. I'm going to add another field called content type. Let's do drop down and let's do content type. Now this could be something like newsletter, blog, right? We can do, Facebook ad as an example. LinkedIn post is another one. This can pretty much be whatever pieces of content that you create. Okay. You can even do TikTok, YouTube, whatever options you have on your content type. It's really kind of selective to you. So you can add them in as needed. I'm going to go ahead and just go ahead and create here. So as an example, right now we have this piece of content. Let's say I have an assignee. I have my due date that's tracking the completion of my content stage. I have my publish date. That's the actual time when the content needs to be published to the public. I have my status of the stage. I have my stage. And then finally, I have the content type. All right. So all of these fields will help your team distinguish what's in progress, what's scheduled, and that way your due dates are more task driven while your publish dates are meant for strategy. All right. So next up, let's start setting up some task details and creating a task template. So we're going to go into everything. So this is really simple and easy. These are the only fields we'll be using. Now, I like to have a simple and easy content template or task template, I should say. Let's go ahead and have two sections. One is called content requirements, and then the other one will be called content outline. All right. Now, what I like to do is I like to use banners. So let's go ahead, let's use our forward command and let's go to banners. Let's make this one green. Let's go ahead and increase the header. Maybe an H3 is good. Looks good to me. And then same thing with content details here. And let's go ahead, add a banner. Let's make this one blue. Let's just match the sizing there as well. So here we can give our users instructions on what they should be inputting into the task in terms of the description, right? So a lot of the times you may assign out a piece of content and there's nothing in the description and your user may be confused. So this will allow users to have a templated area to start from and be able to assign these out to the people who need to complete each stage of work, as an example. Really, it's meant for your project manager so that they have a little bit easier task in completing and setting up the acceptance criteria for your users. So in terms of content requirements, we can just have like a generic language. I'm going to go ahead and do an italics here. Please enter what the acceptance criteria for this project is include a bullet list. And if you want to add a bullet list, it's very simple. All you have to do is just do forward command and you can just literally type in bullet list, or you can even do a checklist within here and you can have like item 1, item 2 as an example. And then here we can do very similar instructions. Please enter the outline of the content and include any relevant details. All right. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go ahead and save this as a template. All I have to do is go to my 3 dots up here. I'm going to go to templates. I'm going to do save as template, content task. All right. I'm not going to import everything. I don't want to import the due dates and start dates. So let's go ahead and just, deselect a lot of this. We don't need any watchers. All we really need, honestly, is just a description on that side. We don't need any of the details set for us. So let's go ahead and remove those. Save template. Our template is being created and it's going to be saved now. Now, how do we set this template so that it's always going to be created whenever we add a new task, right? So let's go ahead and show you how to do that. All you simply have to do is you go to your list. You can click on the 3 dots here, or you can navigate to your space and then go to the list here. And from here, you can click on the 3 dots here. We'll go ahead and do template, and we're going to select default task template. We'll search our template. We have our contact task template here, set as default. Now we have a task template that's always going to be filled out whenever we create a task. So let's go ahead and add a task as an example. And as you can see, the description automatically populates that information. Our PM can easily and simply adjust the requirements as needed. Okay. Now, with that being said, you can set up your template so that it has additional requirements, additional fields, additional selections of even custom fields as well. This will help so that your designers, your different copywriters, anyone who's touching the task, they don't need to have a back and forth. It pretty much turns your ClickUp task into a mini content or creative brief, essentially. So again, helping your team drive the task to completion or the piece of content to completion. All right. That's pretty much the primary structure of our list. It's very simple. Let's start building out some automations and then some views right after that. All right. So I'm going to create a couple of automations here. Pretty much when the content stage changes, let's say to planning, we're going to go ahead and push the due date to 3 days here. So let's go ahead and add that automation. So when custom field changes, right? And we're going to say when it changes to planning, set due date or change due date. And I'm going to say, let's do 3 days after trigger. We only need 3 days for planning, essentially. And it's always good to add a description when planning is set, push due date by 3 days. All right. Now, you can also create an automation so that whenever a task is created, it sets a due date of 7 days as an example. That one's very straightforward. When a new task is created, your action will be push due date by, let's say, 7 days as an example. Now, the next thing that we want to do is when the status changes to done, we're going to go ahead and change the stage automatically. All right. So I'm going to do this for a couple of them, and then I'm going to go ahead and, present to you all of them. So let's go ahead and add a stage. So when status changes to done, all right, and let's have the condition and stage, select custom field, and content stage is equal to, let's say, planning, okay? What we're going to do is we're going to set the custom field. We're going to set the content stage to drafting. And then what we'll do is we're going to change the status to do. Now, you can set it to ready to start as well. It's really dependent on your project manager and how you kind of want to manage your content per se. So let's go ahead, set our description when status changes to done. All right. So I know maybe some of this may be confusing, but I'm going to explain to you with real data at the end in terms of a demo. So let's go ahead and create. Now, what's really nice about ClickUp is you can duplicate these. So let's go ahead, duplicate these in the current position. And all we have to do now is just adjust the statuses. So we did planning to drafting. Let's go ahead and deselect planning. Let's say drafting. And now let's say the content stage will be content created. So now whenever the drafting stage is done, it's going to automatically change the stage to content created and then change the status to do. Instead of content created, this should be content creation. Apologies. All right, you can update this as needed. I'm going to just go ahead and duplicate for the sake of time. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate these and kind of fly through these and we'll kind of review them at the end. All right, so let's duplicate current location. Okay, so I set up all of my triggers for the automation. The next automation that we're going to create is when the content stage is equal to published and the status changes to, let's say, closed or done, it's going to automatically mark it as complete, essentially. There's going to be nothing ahead of that there. That way there's no confusion and the status is automatically closed to complete. Now, what's really nice about these automations is we can actually customize these a little bit more in the future. So another example for here is, let's say that when you move from planning to another stage like drafting, you want to change the assignee. Maybe you have a different planner and a different drafter. Maybe you have a different editor and from your different, copywriter as an example here as well. I do want to update the content stage selections here. I'm going to just change this to content creation, scheduling, and publishing. Okay, because we're describing a stage, not necessarily a current status as an example. So let's go ahead and test the workflow really quick. We're going to go ahead and add a task. As you can see here, the content task is created. Let's go ahead and just say that it is a blog post. We have our content requirements, our outline, the stage is already set to new idea, and we can set the content type to, let's say, blog, and we'll say that we are publishing this at the end of the month. Let's go ahead and hit create task. And boom, we have our blog post created. You can see my old blog post, which I'll just delete here. And as we're completing this, we set up an automation so that when it's in planning, it will go ahead and set the due date to 3 days after the trigger date as an example. All right, so our due date has been pushed. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to show you the different workflows. So let's say our planning, it's in progress. I've worked on it. Now my blog post, the planning portion of this is complete. We're going to go ahead and mark this as done. Our automation will automatically trigger, change the content stage, and then set the status back to do, as you can see. So it changes the stage to drafting and set the status to do. Same thing, if we continue on in this workflow, it'll continuously update the stage and the status as needed. Again, one thing that you can do here is if you have different assignees based on the stage, you can change the assignees as a part of the automation. So the best part about this is that the automation helps create a hands-free workflow, pretty much. Your team can move through each content stage without any guesswork. The deadlines are updated automatically and nothing falls behind. In those automations that we created, you can continuously push the due date. You can have the assignees, manually select the due dates and things like that as well. All right. The next thing that we want to do, we have our structure. We have our automations. Let's create some nice, useful views. All right. So some views that we'll have. We're going to have this list view, but we're going to name this all content. All right. And we're going to group this instead of by status, we're going to group this by stage, our content stage. Okay. You can choose to group this by your content type or your different, your published date as well, if that's important to you. But typically I use content stage. All right, go ahead and hit save. And let's just go ahead and protect this as well. right? The next view that we're going to create is a My Context Task view. We're going to go ahead and duplicate this. We're going to create this as a list view. And what we're going to do is we're going to rename this to say my content tasks, right? And we're going to set this up so that it is filtered so that the assignee is in me mode. This will only show users tasks that are assigned to them or pieces of content that are assigned to them. We're going to have a nice, simple view here. So as you can see, this is dynamic. We're going to go ahead and protect this as well. Right now, I have nothing assigned to me. If I go ahead and assign myself, let's say this task here, it will automatically show up here without any questions. The next views that we can create is we can create different views based on the content types. I only really recommend this if you have like 2 or 3. If you have like 4 or 5, your views are going to get very busy up top. But simply all you would do is duplicate your all content view and then filter so that the content type is whichever selection that you want. So if it's blog, you would create a blog view here as well. Right? So these two views will really help your team visualize the data that they need. We also have a board view by default, and this can also be used in terms of your sprint planning meetings or your team meetings as well. Let's go ahead and set this so that the Kanban board is by content stage. All right. Now, one really cool thing about board views is that in ClickUp, you have the ability to group it by 2 different sections or 2 different fields, essentially. So right now, I'm only seeing my content by stage. But let's say I have dozens of content pieces. I want to be able to see this by a different subgroup. So let's go ahead and add the status here. All right. What's nice about this is now I can see all of my pieces of content, where are they at in the stage, and which ones are in to do, ready to start, in progress, what status are they in, essentially. Now, this board view will help your team manage expectations, and also you'll have an understanding in seeing where the content is at, not only within the particular stage, but within the particular status as well. Last but not least is our content calendar. In ClickUp, you have the ability to create a calendar view. So let's go ahead and add that in. We're going to go to a plus view, select our calendar. We can rename this to say content calendar. And instead of leveraging due dates, what we're going to do is we're going to use our publish date. So I'm going to go ahead and go to layout options, task dates. I'm going to set this to be our publish date instead. Now I have an all-inclusive content calendar where I can manage all of my pieces of content and see what pieces of content are hitting my audience when. So as an example, if I just duplicate or if I add a task here, we can call this one like newsletter, right? And then let's do TikTok as an example. I won't be filling out, I'm just going to fill out the dates here. So let's do this one. Let's add date here. Let's add a date here. And let's add a date here. So this content calendar is again showing me when my different pieces of content are due. It's so helpful to bring this up maybe on your weekly team meetings or your monthly meetings to be able to see what pieces of content are due. You can continue to show and hide relevant fields like assignee, priority, time estimates, and things like that as you see fit. Okay, and that's your complete content management setup in ClickUp. We created a very simple and effective list. We only really have like 3 to 4 custom fields, and we're leveraging different views as well as the status and stage to kind of track each other. So custom fields are tracking your work. Your automations are there to reduce your manual work, and then you have different views so that your team can manage not only their tasks, but also so that they can see on an individual level what tasks are assigned to them. And on top of that, we have the calendar and board views so that you can visualize your content pipeline. So if this helped, please go ahead and hit like and subscribe. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us at bijli.org. Add a comment below. Thank you for watching.